You're listening to Midlife State of Mind podcast, hosted by Erin, a midlife gal who dishes on all the challenges and opportunities that come with this middle section of your life. Each episode, you'll find yourself going between laughter and tears as she covers all the topics you need to know about midlife.
Welcome back to Midlife State of Mind. I'm your host, Erin. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode today. So today's episode was inspired by a recent conversation that I had with a fellow student in my art class. And so in class, as we work on our assignment for that day, we typically have some general conversations. We share a little bit about ourselves and that kind of thing. And so this one particular lady who is retired made the statement, "I only do things I want to do at this point in my life." And so that statement really struck me at the time, and I didn't ask her to elaborate or to clarify exactly what she meant, but I thought a lot about it since then, and I've kind of have some thoughts about it that I want to share today, and I would love to hear your take on only doing things that you love. And while I don't think that she meant that she only does things that she loves to do, and I totally understand the feeling of not wanting to do something that you don't want to do, but let's be honest, we all have to do things that we don't want to do occasionally, like maybe go to the dentist or the doctor or pay taxes or stand in line at a supermarket or something like that. Little small inconveniences in our life that there's no way of getting around. So I don't think that she meant that she never does anything that she doesn't like to do. And I feel like as I interpret what she said, obviously this is my take on it. I think she meant that now that I'm retired and I don't have to go to a job, everything that I do in my spare time brings me joy. Like taking art classes or going and hiking, getting out in nature, playing with my dog for as long as I want, taking a nap, whatever it is. I talked to my mom today and she does her favorite thing every Sunday. She takes a nap. It's like something that she wants to do. She's almost 82 and so she can do whatever the heck she wants. But I really was thinking about this idea of only doing things that we want to do or like to do or love to do or however you want to kind of quantify that statement. And it just, I think, hit me so much because I think that oftentimes for me, I feel like if I were only to do the things that I want to do, I just feel like it would limit me in so many ways. I think it would shortchange me from building resilience and adaptability. And I think it would limit me and cause me to become just very comfortable and not able to then weather tough times when they come or when I have to do things that I don't want to do, like if something unexpected happens. One of the important distinctions, I think, is differentiating between the things that we feel we are supposed to do and the things that we really want to do or are passionate about. And so obviously society has some social constructs in place like taxes, like I said, other things that are expected of us that maybe we don't always want to do, like standing in line politely and not cutting in front of people or stopping at stop signs and obeying all the traffic laws. You know, I hate when I get stopped by a red light and I don't want to stop, but I do it because it is for the safety of myself and all the other people on the road. But so once you are able to differentiate what are my non-negotiables that I don't want to do, let's say you just despise cooking and you're now at the point in your life where you don't have to cook for anyone but yourself. And so you can decide that, you know what, I'm not going to cook. I mean, I think it'd be hard for anyone to completely give up cooking in all honesty, because I mean, you know, even if you wanted to like cook some oatmeal, that's cooking, but maybe elaborate meals or, you know, I know when my kids were growing up, oh my gosh, sometimes I'd be like, do we really have to eat 3 times a day? I mean, come on. And now that I'm an empty nester, there are nights that I don't cook. And so that means either it's getting something like rotisserie chicken that I'll have in the fridge or fruit, or maybe it's something like some scrambled eggs. I'll still have to cook, obviously, but I'm not making a big meal like I did when I had 3 kids at home. So once you've figured out for yourself, these are my negotiables, these are my non-negotiables, right? So non-negotiables, obviously the things that the law says that you have to do. And then maybe some of the things that you have to do to take care of yourself. Like you do need to go to the dentist, otherwise your teeth are going to fall out. But some of the ways that you can, once you have your list of negotiables and non-negotiables, is then if it's something that's non-negotiable that I have to do, but I don't like to do it, How can I do it and lessen the friction of actually getting it done? One of the ways that I think is a really helpful way, and that I use this obviously when I had to do things like, for instance, cooking dinner for my kids when they were little, is by looking at the impact that my actions or the task that I'm doing has on other people. And so when I didn't want to do something that I particularly had to do, like laundry, I would think, well, my kids at the time when they were little people couldn't do their own laundry at 3 or 4 years old, or couldn't cook their own meals when they were too young to use a stove. So I looked at the impact that that would have. So by cooking this healthy meal for my family, I'm providing the most nourishment. This is like a form of love for them. My kids didn't ask to be born. And so personally for me, I take being a mom very seriously and the responsibilities that come along with it. But I always just felt like my kids didn't ask to be born. I chose to bring them into the world. Maybe they did ask to be born before they got here. And so even if it's something unpleasant, you don't pay your bills. I hate paying bills. So I set them all up on auto payment. But I know that I want to have electricity and I want to have water. Basically kind of reframing and looking at it as my task that I'm doing has a positive impact on these people. So that's one way. Another way is that finding joy in the doing. So pairing an unpleasant task with something you do enjoy. So let's say you have to clean your house. So you can put in your headphones, you can blast your favorite music or listen to your favorite podcast or an audiobook, something that brings you joy that you want to do. And so you're pairing that unpleasant with the pleasant, and it reduces that friction, right? And so for me, when my kids were little and I had to cook dinner, I would put on some of my favorite TV shows so that I could watch my favorite TV show while I was cooking them dinner. Or I would put on music and I'd listen to music. And that way I had something pleasant that I really liked to do with something that was unpleasant. And then lastly, I think is reminding yourself that by doing the things that you'd rather not do and not doing the things you want to do, you overcome this friction and you build mental pathways in your brain and you cultivate self-discipline. And I know for me, this might be different from you, but basically for me, having self-discipline, having personal growth, having good flexibility and adaptability is just really important to me in my life. And especially as I get older and I can get stuck in my ways and I can kind of get into a rut with my thinking, it's always good to challenge yourself to see if you can create that resiliency, that flexibility, not just in our bodies, but in our minds and in our spirits so that we can live a fulfilled life. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me today. And as I said, I would love to hear what your thoughts are on doing something that you don't love. How do you tackle it? First off, do you do it? And then if you do it, how do you tackle it? How do you reduce that friction? You can share your thoughts with me on my social medias, on Instagram and Facebook, Midlife State of Mind Podcast. You can also head to my website, midlifestateofmindpodcast.com, and you can contact me there. If you are a new listener, I would love to have you hit the follow button so that you can stay in the loop whenever a new episode is dropped each week. And if any episode has particularly resonated with you and if you enjoy the content that I create, I would be really grateful if you would leave me a rating and a written review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to me on. And then lastly, if you are interested in learning about additional ways that you can support the podcast, you can take a look at the show notes and you'll see a list of my favorite things. All of those favorite things have a link. And if you purchase, the podcast does earn a small commission that just helps offset the cost of producing it. These products are all ones that I use and I love, and I would recommend to any of my best girlfriends. My podcast is a place where we can inspire each other to make positive changes and embrace all that midlife has to offer. I'll be back next week with another episode. See you then. Bye.
This has been an E Squared production.